Also, I'm so glad you're here. We were about to start without you, but I remember that there would be nobody here to defend Dino Thunder, so we waited. I think he's mad.
Also, you look like you just woke up and like you're pissed about it.
Give me one sec.
What is the best season of our favorite shows? This is... What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Versus. Oh my goodness, how's everybody doing?
Doing good.
Sorry.
My bad.
Yeah, hopefully I didn't scare anybody awake there. Like, think Alsace was sleeping just a minute ago.
Oh yeah.
So today's episode on our continual quest of what is the best season of Power Rangers, we have come to our final round in the quarterfinals, and that is RPM versus Dino Thunder. Now I do have a video. I honestly, like with our video guests, I had a few people that I asked, and then some of them got back to me, some of them didn't, and I just didn't have the time to respond to everybody. So if you guys, sent me a message or sent me a video, and we weren't able to use it, I'm so sorry. Just a lot of things came up, but I was able to track this guy down because I work with him and he loves Power Rangers. And I was like, hey, you want to talk about Power Rangers? I'm doing a video. And he said, sure. And so here is Owen and his take on RPM versus Dino Thunder.
Hey guys, I'm Owen. I'm here to discuss RPM versus Dino Thunder, and I'm voting for RPM because let's face it, Power Rangers plus super fast cars, there's literally no other option.
It's RPM?
RPM, 100%.
All right, sweet. Thanks, man. Now, okay.
That's great. Simple to the point. Shit.
Owen's a good dude. It was funny because like when I first asked him, I showed him like all the matchups, and he was like, I want to do RPM versus Dino Thunder, and I said, why RPM versus Dino Thunder? He's like, I love RPM. Just the idea of them using cars. It was a perfect idea, and I was like, you do know Turbo Ranger happened, but yeah. So we got one vote there for RPM. Who wants to crack at it? I mean, I'll say you said you wanted to defend Dino Thunder. This is your moment. Are you ready?
Okay, here's the thing. If the first thing I got to defend it against is the fact that cars is the main aesthetic of RPM. Dude, dinosaurs are synonymous with Power Rangers. You know what I mean? That's like the go-to motif. And I don't think there's anything cooler than dinosaurs. I don't understand how cars can compare to dinosaurs when dinosaurs are like these big, massive beasts. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Well, I feel like it's an unfair comparison.
They can't have sex as the main drive of a theme. That's pretty cool.
That's true. Dude, if there was a sex Sentai, that'd be sick.
There is. I brought it up in Let's Talk Toku, and I got a lot of for it, even though I only mentioned it for 2 seconds.
Oh, Chi-Chi Ranger.
No, okay.
And they had the Abba Ranger outfits because it was a parody during.
They did have Abba Ranger.
So
yeah, I remember that. That's a point for Dino Thunder. That's a point.
Here we go.
No, I'll say I got your back because I pick Dino Thunder because RPM is fantastic, great story, but Dino Thunder is more of what Power Rangers is supposed to be. It takes all the best aspects of the original and making a new, basically, anniversary season. It has really nice arcs kind of split up within the show itself, where RPM has one really great story and sprinkled in great moments. So I actually go with Dino Thunder. And I like the suits better. As much as I like RPM, I never loved the suits. I love the suits in Dino Thunder.
Yeah.
Because you have your main three, and they have like the tire rubber, and then you have 4 and 5 green and black, and they have gears, and then the go on wings or the whatever they call them in RPM. They
Gem and Gemma, right?
Yeah. They all have their own distinct kind of look and vibe, and I'm not sure RPM really kind of geared it towards that. See what I did there? Gear, but. Yeah,
I still feel that RPM, as far as the design goes, when you're talking about things like cars and speed and whatnot, those designs are still more cohesive than Overdrive, in my opinion. That's my take. I think they're more cohesive. I do love the Dino Thunder designs, although when they murk out and like and they get like the crazy wild extension,
The Super Dino mode.
yeah, the Super Dino
Yeah,
stuff. Like at first I was like, when they start moving, I'm like, y'all look kind of corny. But at the same time, I'm like, well, this is kind of cool because now you got all these extra like blades and stuff. I'm like, this is some pure 90s stuff. Like, I'm like, the only thing you need now is like pockets, like Cable from like X-Men stuff when he had all the pockets. Pouches and pockets and big guns. Like that would be perfect. So, and like I do really, really like the white the white Dino Ranger design and the black Dino Ranger design. I really do.
Homeboy?
Yeah.
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 Dude.
Yeah, like
Look at that visor with the
Best
black
suit
ring.
in all of Sentai or Power Rangers, honestly.
It's such a good suit.
Like it's a dope suit. And so like from a design sense, like I'm torn. Okay. But from a story sense, Nick is right. I agree with Alsace. It is like a tribute to Dino Thunder's a tribute to Power Rangers. It uses nostalgia. It doesn't lean on it heavy because your nostalgia is Tommy. Your nostalgia is Tommy. That's like it's the ultimate Disney sale. They're like, well, Ninja Storm was cool. We did all right. We did fine. So how can we up the stakes? Okay, bring back the most popular dude that everybody talks about, that everybody associates, and so many associate Power Rangers with.
Yeah.
And let's boost it up a bit. He doesn't have to be there all the time, but he's going to be the focus for a while. So we can show people how the trio actually runs this series and how they grow. Because as far as character dynamics and growth, Dino Thunder I feel has an advantage over RPM. I do feel that like although RPM for me is like Fast and Furious meets Power Rangers, which I'm always for because I'm one of the biggest Fast and Furious fans you'll ever meet. I call it Black Avengers because that's what it is. But like there's something about Dino Thunder that will always resonate with me as a whole, even though Tommy like crescent kicked a Tyrannosaurus Rex in the face, which just made me anyway. It's a great show, great characters, overall strong story arcs. I love the best, awesome villain. Not saying that the villain on RPM is weak because I enjoy the main villain in RPM as well. But RPM though could stand well and serve well on its own without any history or lineage connected to Power Rangers whatsoever. That's the one thing that RPM has that like over a ton of shows. It can stand on its own. It doesn't need any Ranger history at all. So so I know like I haven't made a clear-cut case because honestly, there's strong cases for both Rangers.
But you made a great point just now about the actual characters, because in Dino Thunder, all the main three especially, but even especially the white, he had a whole great arc, but all those characters changed from beginning to end. In RPM, they had a great face for each character, especially when you saw their past, but that became where they are and where they stayed. Like they had that backstory episode. It's a great history episode of that character, and then that's who they are. And then nothing other than Dr. K, like no character really changed. Maybe Black because he was literally discovering if he's human or not and stuff.
Yeah, I was literally about to say them too. They kind of went through an arc a little bit.
They had like all those like flashback episodes, like where they were before all this went down, and like even that has like the very first episode, you have like the reveal of who the three main, characters in RPM are, and it even has like a little flashback of who they were at the time of all this going down. And I feel like that is like you're kind of trying to piece together what happened between it, and I think that's sort of hasn't really been done before. That the characters don't really change much because they're already at their limits. They've already become there.
They don't need to change.
So you're trying to figure out, kind of what that change has already occurred, and then you can kind of become accustomed with who they were, who they are, and who they can become after they finish all this.
I'm just because it's a different way that they approach that for RPM with the whole character backstories and everything, and I think that's really like what it comes down to for these two seasons is just the strength of the characters because there's such a good cast between both of these shows.
Yeah,
it is really hard to pick.
I will be controversial. I did find Gold and Silver eventually annoying. Like their bit of talking over each other and being excited and acting like they were on drugs, like eventually, and they're both super nice in real life, incredibly nice people. But that character gimmick got old really, really fast.
Gemma,
And on the
Gemma,
flip
and
side,
Gimmick.
yeah. But on the flip side, you had White and Black story. You had Tommy coming back, literally going through his past and fighting his, ghosts of himself, becoming the as a kid. Shocked the hell out of me. I had no idea that was coming. And then we had the White Ranger story where it really flip-flopped, where he's being, mind controlled, or now he's choosing to do this, but he's a little evil, he's conflicted. Like, there was a lot of good growth and changes in those characters. Or on the other hand, when I compare the 6th and 7th Ranger, however you want to put it, I didn't care about them. So when they died, it was shocking that Rangers died again. But I was like, oh, thank God I don't have to hear any more bits. Like, I don't have to hear any more.
I don't know if we talked about it, but it's really funny how like RPM is almost exactly opposite Go-Onger. Like, if you've seen Go-Onger, like the main 5 are like the most lovable idiots that you've ever seen. Somehow just struggle busing. Literally, they live on a bus. They're just having a really tough time. And then you have 6 and 7, Gold and Silver, come in, and they're like, they completely own this. Like, they're super badass. They kind of make the show a little cooler. It's got a refined edge to it now, and they kind of rub off on one another, where they become goofier by the end, and then the Go-Onders kind of become more serious too. And then RPM is completely opposite, where you have super like, well, I guess not Ziggy, but like, you got like that really serious tone, and then they try to lighten it up in the half end, which, to be fair, I've never actually finished RPM. Like, I love RPM. I think it's a really well written show, but like, at the time that it was on, it was impossible to watch. I wasn't going to wake up at 4 a.m. to watch it. It was impossible to like find, ways to download or watch the episodes. And so like a lot of that, hold on one second. I have maintenance. He's fixing the AC. So just give me 1 second. Sorry.
Yo. Dynamic Blurred coming at you, aka Derek, and I gratefully thank you, Squall, for pitching me in towards your quarterfinal finals between 2004's Dino Thunder, the Jurassic Power Teens with Attitude, versus 2009's RPM, the Fury Road drafted rebels with nothing left to lose. Keeping it real, keeping it simple here is, I have to go with a childhood legacy favorite, which is Dino Thunder. Dino Thunder had an encompassing, truly seamless story that is unforgettable. You had a synergy impactful cast. You had elements of both old school and new school balanced well together. And to end it off is my final technique, which is a little home video of the theme song that is unforgettable and impactful. So I'll catch you guys later. Bye-bye, yo.
It's weird to think like RPM, as good as it is, I never finished it, and kind of on the same side of this matchup with Dino Thunder. Dino Thunder is like the first like consecutive series like that. I watched like Lightspeed. I got a little bits of. I watched like as soon as I jumped into Time Force, I watched as much of that as I could. All of Wild Force, all of Ninja Storm, and then Dino Thunder kind of broke the mold for me, where I just didn't care. Like, I think maybe it's just my hatred for Tommy, but like I was just like it doesn't do anything for me. Like, I'd catch like an episode like every now and then, like before I had to go hop on the bus, but it just really never did anything for me. And I feel like, I don't know, RPM's just like such a strong show all around, but I've never, I think it is Gem and Gemma that like, they come in and I'm just like, And the fact that like every time they do like a morphing sequence, they just take it from the Sentai footage, but then they squish it into a 4x3, but they're fitting 3 of them in a 4x3 frame, and it just looks awful. And I just don't want them to do that. And they do it in the intro, and I'm gonna just keep rambling on about.
Oh yeah, that's definitely.
Now, does Dino Thunder get credit because it did that one really good episode where they actually celebrated Sentai in a really clever way?
Well, see, if I would have saw that as a kid, I would have been so gung-ho to find out what the hell they were actually watching, because that looks way more entertaining than what I have been watching with Dino Thunder. And because like when I found Geki Ranger, it was literally on a video between Jungle Fury and Geki Ranger, and it was comparing the two, and I was like, all right, yep, there's the sunglasses. And then they have this other show where like, whoosh, and I was like, I'm in. Let's do this.
What's that?
I'm on Daily Motion now, trying to find these videos.
I remember those days. Daily Motion.
Daily Motion.
Oh, man.
You can't find it. can't find it anywhere, you go to Daily Motion.
Wild West back in the day.
Daily Motion.
But like it introduced me to that, and I really wish I could have been exposed to that, you know, when it was airing and as a kid to see that. Obviously there would be no conceivable way for me as a kid to have found out about that, but you know, I don't know, that's one of those episodes that I went back and I saw as an adult, and I was just like, I really do appreciate this episode. I appreciate what they did here. You know, it's cool. I like the idea that Japan is stealing, you know, American superheroes and making it goofy and silly when it's the complete opposite.
And also, again, even though I want to make it very clear, I love RPM. It's really, really good season. It's really great storytelling. But I feel like at the core, for any children's show, basically, there should be a message in every few episodes. Should be a great message, like the one we just mentioned with the Sentai one. The message was, just because it's different doesn't mean it's bad. Like, give it a chance. I feel like RPM episodes never had that moral lesson because they're so focused on the story.
Right.
You get a lot of episodes that are just about the characters, and as adults now, we appreciate it more. But as a kid, you're not getting that important message. You're just getting a dystopian future, which is plenty of in media today. And you get the stories that are up and down, you know, they vary in quality. And to me, the stronger parts of RPM are actually the earlier parts when you get those really good backstory episodes.
Yeah,
when you get past like episode 12-ish, to me, that's where it gets a little more generic. And it's like, yeah, I get it. That lady's a sister. Like, come on. I figured it out.
Like after the Dr. K episode, kind of. Somewhere around there.
It's interesting you brought that up. It jogged. When I talked to Jason Narvey, he really equated to why Power Rangers was so successful was because in all of like our media, like all of like, you know, like our Marvel and DC and everything out there, like as dark as everything gets, Power Rangers is like almost like 95% the one consistent source for kids with superheroes where it doesn't have to be completely, you know, dark or mature themed. And I feel like RPM was really nice because for us growing up with this show, for getting to, you know, go through all these years and kind of, you know, falling out with it a little bit, or, you know, kind of getting to the repetitive stage of it, especially like when Operation Overdrive and maybe in some cases Jungle Fury, that like RPM really was a show for those kids who are now, you know, teenagers or adults to kind of just give them that taste, kind of like when they had like that like R-rated Power Ranger short that came out and everybody was just like, this is great. And I watched it. I'm like, this is nothing. This isn't Power Rangers. Like, this is just, you know, some dudes like fantasy, and they're using, you know, the suits. Diver. Yeah, like it's like, okay, that is cool. Yeah, it looks great. The actors, you know, but this isn't Power Rangers. And I think in a sense, I kind of think of that with RPM too. Like, I see RPM at the top because I see all these like adult mature kind of themes that you know, really on the scope of everything aren't really mature, aren't really, you know, adult, but like in this show compared to the wide gamut of everything else, it's the dark season, you know. But I don't know if that equates into being good, you know.
Right.
I haven't finished it.
I have to kind of, just for the sake of argument, everyone knows where I lies, but I kind of have to I have to steel man RPM a little bit because I feel like the tone is getting too lopsided here. RPM does have some very silly moments, because you remember that episode with the gun in the fridge, or like just any episode that focuses on Ziggy or like Gem and Gemma.
Right.
Like, it does have this layer of goofiness. Like, it is consistently more mature than other seasons, but I think it's a little overhyped in the fandom, especially when you compare it to everything else, where it's like, there is, when you watch it back to back, there's this consistent thread, there's this consistent narrative, but there's also a consistent layer of like goofiness that is always there, and this silliness that doesn't really lose. I feel like it definitely does have its own sort of tone in comparison to everything else, but at the end of the day, it matures it a little bit, but I wouldn't say to the extent to where it loses itself. You know what I mean?
Right. And I feel like, just like kind of like how I'm talking about it, it's more or less of like how I remember it. Like, now that you're mentioning like Ziggy, like I remember like in the intro, like they have the one like where he's got the sheet and he's doing like the chicken, you know, like hand thing or whatever.
Oh yeah,
yeah. And I'm just like, oh yeah, okay, I guess I remember that. I remember like him asking Dr. K, like Dr. K, like, this is your one and only chance to have any any question answered. Like, go for it. And he's just like, I got a question. How come every time we morph, for no, particular reason, behind me there's just this giant fireball? Like, could that happen in
Yeah.
Like, there is some good like comedy like that.
They had some legit comedy, some like legit good comedy. Like watch it as an
it's
adult.
funny.
Like, wow, that's funny. Yeah, that was really funny.
It's a very
Absolutely.
self-aware season, I would say.
Yeah.
It is, yeah.
Plus,
It was gonna be
I would
at the
also
end.
say
So I said, yeah.
RPM. Yeah. I'm sorry, you keep it on.
No.
All right. I would say that RPM probably is the only show that I would show to like a casual person. If I were to try and introduce anyone to Power Rangers, RPM's the go-to because I feel like
modern episodes or whatever.
Yeah. Or even ones before RPM, really. I feel like RPM's the most palatable for someone you're trying to like explain, okay, Power Rangers isn't just for kids. There's some interesting aspects to it. RPM's the one where it's very obvious that there's something here. You know what I mean? It can be enjoyed by like older audiences. Even in the first episode where it's like clearly like post-apocalyptic future, damn near all of society is wiped out, and it's like, it does have that sort of like B movie kind of cheesy aesthetic, and I do get that sometimes from when I do show it to people.
It literally rips off Mad Max.
No, literally.
Yeah.
But I would say when I do try to introduce someone to tokusatsu, RPM is one of the go-tos for me, at least. I feel like it's the easiest like way to bridge that gap.
But I almost feel like if you show them that, it's like, where do you go from there? It's just gonna disappoint them, And I almost feel like RPM and the themes and kind of like how it handles itself, because it's so, nonchalant, because it knows that this is the end. Like, that we're putting all of our money, all of our resources into this. Let's just do it. All those ideas we had on a whiteboard, let's funnel it into this season. And I feel like in some ways that's almost a detriment to it. Like,
That's true.
Compared to other Power Ranger seasons, like if you showed someone Wild Force and they got into it, they're like, oh yeah, and you can be like, all right, now let's check out Ninja Storm, and then like it kind of, has its own like pros and cons to it, where I feel like all the pros is literally everything that every other season of Power Rangers is. Like, it's cheesy, it's goofy, it's, not very serious, it's meant for kids. And RPM is almost the opposite of that in a lot of, regards, trying to be something that's completely different than what's been done. And I don't know, maybe that's a fault to it.
But also, personally, I always found the villains kind of lacking in RPM because they already won. They already took over the world, and now they just can't get into this bubble. They keep knocking on the bubble, and they can't get into it. And sometimes they get into it, but they don't like have enough people in it, so they can't stay. Like,
It's like
I don't know why I never felt compelled watching Vengex, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I never felt compelled or scared or like interested in his story. And when it came to Thunder, like, he looked awesome in that suit. Even though you saw his lips under his mouth, like in that dinosaur suit, always looked really cool. And when you found out it was the dad, and like there was some really good stuff with that.
Yeah,
and they were more compelling with that.
Absolutely.
And Mezagog.
I remember when. Oh, keep going. I've been saying too much. You go.
No. I'm just saying Mezagog also makes really great Nicolas Cage Ghost Rider faces.
Yeah,
that's true.
He does.
Like if you ever saw the behind the scenes on filming of Ghost Rider 2 and where they just literally they have Nicolas Cage in like this face paint and they've got all these lights attached to his face so they can mark the CGI, and he's just sitting there making the strangest faces, like he's like just making the strangest faces. And so they could do all the CGI. And I'm like, yo, that's Mezagog right there, fam. That's Mezagog.
Oh yeah, I could totally see that.
Mezagog looked like a monster you wouldn't want to fight. Like, to me, that's the best kind of scariest design since Lord Zed for any villain.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that. Yeah. His entire even just backstory too is like one of the more darker villain histories in Power Rangers, with just like all the experimentation and everything, what he wants to do, because he doesn't really want to take over the world. He just wants to like change everyone into mutant dinosaurs.
Yeah, like you do.
Yeah.
Like, on paper, this seems like it should be a lot easier than it is, but the more I'm thinking about it, even though I'm not like a super big fan of Dino Thunder, like what you guys have said, I think is kind of swaying me a little bit more. Like, yeah, this does per capita entertain a little bit more. It does have like a lot of those values that Mighty Morphin brought to the table, and now it's more refined. You know, I like the cast much more than any of the other casts. Like, there's always like one or two people that kind of, you know, annoy me, and obviously, you know, I'm gonna feel that way with Tommy, but Tommy's not really in the show very much. He's in the beginning, and then he's just kind of off and doing his own thing. And I love the core three, and then you bring Trent in eventually. Like, those were some good, you know, like chemistries and like good, you know, just team dynamics. So I don't know.
As a team dynamic, as a team dynamic in RPM, they were pretty much perfect from the beginning. Like, minus Black having a few moments, he always accepted them pretty immediately. Ziggy kind of just wanted a family anyway, and the main three were already a group before the show started. So like, you never felt tension within the group. And it's like I mentioned in the beginning, like, there's no evolution as a team. Whereas Dino Thunder, they had to evolve as a team to get to that point. To trust each other, to bring Trent in, to overcome everything they had to overcome to get to that point. So, yeah.
Well, and even in RPM, Gold and Silver even had history with like Dr. K and everything. So it always felt like there was connections between everyone from the beginning.
Like,
That's
we
what
missed the
I was gonna say
people
earlier. That's what I was gonna say earlier. Is that like the whole thing with like Alphabet Soup, like the concept of like this secret underground organization, like picking up these child prodigies and like just basically like making them work for them. That's like super. Yeah, that's like, and like it's like, I don't know. The whole thing with like Dr. K like creating Venjix and having to deal with that guilt throughout the season is major, dude. That's a major part of what makes Beast Morphers good, actually. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, yeah.
like it's so good it makes other seasons good. Like, I don't know. That's just a major part of like what makes RPM so like great in that aspect. You know what I mean?
And it brings up the first concept of being in our dimension. Because when you're watching, you're like, wait a minute. So does the whole world end? Like, is this how the Mighty Morphin world? People like you thought. You're still burning from the ashes. Like, wait. Tommy dead, and like you like, but then you bring in the conflict. Either it's another dimension, or this is just the future of Power Rangers, which is sad in its own way. Like, and then the ending of like, wait a minute, he's still alive, like a horror movie ending of like the hand coming out of the water. So like, it's a very unique season, which helps and hurts at the same time because they tried different things because it might be the ending. So like, let's just try something new, and I really appreciate how ambitious it is. But when you're comparing it to the history and the legacy of Power Rangers, like, it doesn't represent Power Rangers in the best way as, in my opinion, Dino Thunder does.
I think you summed it up best there, Nick. I think that's really what it is.
I agree. Yes. That's good.
That's the slam dunk moment, honestly.
All right, are you guys ready to vote on this? I think we've talked enough about.
Yeah, I think so.
Does everybody feel okay with voting? I just want
Yes.
Yeah.
So 1 for RPM, 2 for Dino Thunder. On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
Sorry, internet. Ooh. You hate Tommy that much.
I'm over here putting all these bullet holes in RPM and just completely trying to take it off that pedestal that everybody puts it on, and you guys are over here defending the hell out of it just to vote against it. Oh
yeah. That's how we mess with you, Charlson.
Oh my god.
Nobody saw that coming. You was gonna be like, "Oh man, they gonna go with RPM. They gonna go." I'm telling you, look at all this evidence they bring into the heat. Look at the heat. Here come the lawyers. Here they come. Oh, here. Oh hell.
The thing is, I'm the one that's gonna get all the flack for this.
Right. You're damn right.
That is true. That is true. Hey, listen, everybody. Listen to all y'all watching this video right now. Please don't come at Squall. This ain't on him. This is not on him. We voted. This was a democracy. There will not be any lawsuits. Those are all thrown out. And do not blame Squall. Do not blame Squall. He a good dude. Yeah, I know. He don't like Tommy. Well, guess what? A lot of other people don't like Tommy either. So just be easy. Be easy on Squall, okay? He good people.
Didn't you get yelled at for not liking a random season of Sentai like last week or something?
Yeah, it's nonstop. But like, they're gonna collect all the results and everything before you even start to talk, Sean. And that's gonna be everywhere.
Out of context.
Oh yeah.
Well, you guys, that is the end of our quarter final matches. So we only have 4 seasons left. Oh my goodness. So our next episode that we're going to have for you guys next week is going to be our semifinal round with Power Rangers Ninja Storm versus SPD.
Can we not?
All right, I'm heading
Dang.
out.
The problem with elongating all this is people are just going to keep coming.
Oh yeah.
I don't know what I've done. See you guys.
Bye.
Oh my goodness, that's
Yo, I'm trying to help you, fam. I'm trying to keep stuff so they don't fuss at you, Squall.